So due to an autoimmune illness, my husband and I had to be careful for many years not to conceive. And so I was on some medication for an autoimmune illness called methotrexate, which includes like the abortion pill. And so we had to make sure that I did not become pregnant. And so I begged my rheumatologist to give me a break and taking the medication so that I could have a child. I was getting older. And so when we found out we were pregnant, we were so excited. We were just very happy. My husband loves kids, I love kids, and I wanted to name the baby Zoe, and Zoe means life. And so we were very excited about it. In 2016, in the spring of 2016, I had a miscarriage. And maybe about 3 months after the miscarriage, I began to feel a lump in my right breast. The breast surgeon told me that in trying to produce milk while I was pregnant, it pushed the tumor to the surface so that I could feel it. And at that time, that's how the lump had already been there. And so I was stage 3. And if I would have listened to my OBGYN, I may not be here today. And so when I had the miscarriage, I was devastated. And so during that time, I couldn't understand how God would allow me to conceive, but, not go full term with the pregnancy. But once I found out that if I would not have had the miscarriage, I wouldn't have found out that I had breast cancer. And the form of breast cancer that I had was estrogen positive. So, during pregnancy, your estrogen levels and hormone levels are off the charts. And so it would have just helped to spread the cancer throughout my body. And so just hearing those words from the breast surgeon took that grief away from me immediately. And I thank God for Zoe, baby Zoe. So Zoe, which means life, gave me life. And today I am cancer-free. So I went from stage 3 to cancer-free, and to God be all the glory. What keeps me going is knowing that God has a plan for me. And so the Bible tells us, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to give you a hope and a future. And so that's what keeps me going every day, that I know that God kept me here because I have a bright future and my hope is in God.
My situation happened on February 2015. I was actually attending a family event, the Family Motorcycle on Wheels Motorcycle Club. They have an annual event which they have twice a year, and I was there line dancing, as I love to do. Anybody who knows me, I love the line dance, hand dance. And I was dancing and I felt something wasn't right. I think I want to say I was doing the Cupid shuffle, and something just didn't seem right. So I kind of stopped. And my mom looked at me, my dad looked at me, and it was like, are you okay? And oh, I'm fine, oh, I'm fine. Got back up, started, wait till the next song came on and started dancing some more. Then I stopped again. And they were like, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine. But I knew something wasn't right, but I don't know. My stepfather, but he's my biological dad. He's been in my life since I was 12, so I call him my dad. And I said, Mr. Melvin, I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And he said, what? And I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. He says, Sarah, Vita's on the phone. She says she thinks she's having a heart attack. All of a sudden, everybody comes running to my room. And so then my sister Karen, she's a doctor, and she decides to check my vitals and everything. She comes in and she's like, what's going on? I was like, I'm just not feeling good. So she starts checking my vitals, and she's like, they're having this conversation behind my back, which is fine. And she's like, this isn't good. And she's like, do you have a heart condition or something? I was like, well, I ended up having another heart surgery. And they took the device out. They put it back in. I have a new one. It's been there since December 30th, 2015. And I can say since this time, you probably think I'm crazy. I remember that April, several months later, I guess it was about a year later, I did my first 5K. The following year, I did a 5K and a 9K. Since that time, I've done several 5Ks. I've done a few 9Ks. Gosh, I wish I had some of my medals to show you. Dr. Hutchinson says, you are my miracle patient. I might say, why me? But I say, thank you. Thank you for this, because I'm humble. I'm just very thankful. I take nothing for granted. And when this is Survivors Just Thrives, that is me. Because I'm not supposed to be here. And if I say I thrive, yes, I do.
I think it was about 2014, and I had a family member that I was very close to that had been diagnosed with lung cancer, and I was part of her caregiving team. And I remember all during that time, I felt a lump in my breast, and it was a pretty large lump. And I had a feeling that I knew something was wrong, but I knew I couldn't explain to my family why I couldn't go to the doctors. Because I knew if I had the diagnosis, then they wouldn't understand that I needed to take care of her. Her name was Rita, and I remember her saying to me, you can't put this off. And I said, I know. But I knew that things were getting really bad for her. So actually, once she passed away, I made an appointment to go to the doctors. So you can tell when you're having tests and people are coming in and out of the room, but they're not saying anything, and that the doctor would follow up with you. So the doctor called and wanted my husband and I and my family to come in and talk. I remember sitting across from him and saying, so I know it's cancer. I needed to look at what the next steps were. I remember the first day of chemo thinking, God, I'm never going to make it through this. That, love is not what happens when you're doing your best. Love is what takes place when you're at your worst and you can't do anything for yourself. When I think about where I am now, what's happening today, I've been cancer-free. God is there. He's there. And He's going to guide you through, whether your eyes are open or closed. He's going to take you through. And when you get to the other side, it's going to be wonderful.
It was a Monday, January 12th, and I had been to several hospitals as a pastor visiting members who were sick. And when I got to the third hospital, I got a blinding headache, and it was disorienting. And I stumbled out into the hallway, and I called a nurse. The doctor says, well, oh, we'll tell you what, we'll just observe her for a while. My husband was like, no, you're not going to observe her. You're going to get her to the hospital now. So the ambulance came, took me to one hospital, and the hospital said, she's had such a bad stroke, we can't do anything for her. So they had to transport me by helicopter to another hospital where I stayed in intensive care for about 8 days. And it turned out that I had an intracerebral hemorrhagic stroke, that I was bleeding on the brain due to extremely high blood pressure, which was uncontrolled because there was a medication error. But they released me, but they told me to follow up. Well, 3 days later was the day I followed up. When you have the intracerebral, the hemorrhagic stroke, most people don't even survive. A third of the people don't even survive. And then another third of that don't live viable lives. So that's why I say I'm truly, truly blessed. But receiving this award has let me know that even despite what I've been through, that my life still has meaning, that my life is significant, and I can use what I went through as a sort of almost like a plumb line for what God can do, that God can do anything, and that even in the midst of what I've been through, that God can take this test, cliche, I know, take this test and turn it into a testimony. He can take whatever mess I felt and turn it into a message. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I have learned.
First of all, we talked about what we didn't like, sitting in classes and listening to all the disparities. Every major disease that was described in our lecture halls, at the top of the list were African Americans. And we were really, really very discouraged hearing that, especially since the majority of the people in our classes did not look like us. My husband was the only male, African American male, to graduate from his class. And it was about 7 of us that graduated from mine. So it was really hard to hear that we were the sickest group of people going through every disease state: diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular disease. And we made up on our mind that we were going to be a different type of pharmacist, that we were going to be very, very involved in the care of our community. We really, really worked hard to establish ourselves in the community, to just make sure that we provided knowledge and really guided our patients so that when they left us, they were a little more educated and could really participate in the health care in their own health care, as opposed to feeling like victims or feeling like they had no say. So that had a lot to do with it. When I saw the impact that a pharmacist could have in the outcomes of a patient, I was hooked. I knew that this was our calling. I knew that this is what we needed to do. And when I told my husband, Rick Peters, what I wanted to do, he actually made it happen. He built a lab for me. So what we make is patient specific. You walk through our door, you have allergies to dyes, you may have allergies to certain bases, you may have allergies to soy. We can actually take the pure active ingredient of the medication that you need to be on, that your body actually needs, and dose it to your specific dose, because the standard medication or the manufactured dose may be too strong for you. And you can't cut a tablet in 1/8. Maybe 1/8 of the dose is what you need. Maybe 1/4 of the dose is what you need. So we can customize it so that it is specific for your need. The loneliest feeling that someone has after an illness like that is not feeling like they have support. You have support. The Open My Heart Foundation has created an opportunity for you to receive the support you need so that you can thrive, so that you can survive, and so you can live your best life. You've been given an opportunity to live longer, and it's a blessing, but what a blessing it is to be able to help you through that process. And so I am so thankful and I am so honored to be receiving this award from the Open My Heart Foundation. You all are phenomenal, and I'm proud to be able to serve your organization as an educator. And I really appreciate that, and I thank you, truly, I humbly thank you for this award and this recognition for our work.
On May 15th, 2017, it was in the morning. I woke up as usual. I went in the bathroom to take my shower and brush my teeth. I came out. It was Mother's Day, matter of fact. I came out and made some calls, some happy Mother's Day calls to different people. I prayed for people. I got dressed and the phone rang back and it was my son. Because we have a standing date on Mother's Day and he always takes me somewhere special. So he was calling me to tell me he was on his way. That morning when I locked that door, I locked my life as I knew it inside the house. When I stepped off the steps, I was beginning a new life that I didn't know about. They diagnosed me with, I had had a stroke and a brain aneurysm. An artery in my brain had just, the walls were so thin in the artery ballooned up and it popped open. And they did a 3-hour surgery and they told, but I'm here today because the previous doctor had already told my son that I wasn't going to make it for 24 hours. And if I did make it through the operation, I would be a vegetable. So here I am today. I can't walk, but I'm here. God spared my life, and I'm grateful for that. Yes, it was a big surprise when I was called. First of all, I was thinking, well, this is my opportunity where I can tell my testimony and people can see how great God is, and maybe somebody will catch on, you know, and give their life to the Lord if they hear what he's done for me. And then somebody who have been through the same thing as me, who's not as strong and cannot push forward as much as I can, then maybe it will give them strength, you know, to go on. That's my purpose for doing it. And I feel honored that I was chosen to be one of the ones to speak or to give my testimony so I can encourage someone else. And I'm grateful.